We just had we spent a half hour together here with a presentation by Ginny on the living soul.
Oh, that's nice.
Yes. And we discussed it a little bit ourselves, mainly asking questions about it to gain a deeper understanding of it.
Yes.
Maybe we could begin with asking, what is a living soul? And what is the etymology that was asked also of the word soul? And what is it in metaphysiology that you mean by it?
Well, I don't know the etymology of the word soul.
Would it be from prayer, Latin word prayer?
So what is the Latin word soul?
Soul, S-O-L.
And what does it mean?
Sun.
Some?
Sun, S-U-N.
Oh, no, I don't think so. Even, no. No. But soul is a word to describe a non-dimensional entity which is alive.
A non-dimensional entity.
Yes.
It is alive.
Which is alive, which was never born and never dies. And it is synonymous with the Christ. And it is a quality of consciousness attained through the process of studying and meditating on ultimate issues. And when you realize that you're a living soul, you have beheld yourself in the context of God, and you have seen ultimate reality. Now, the Buddhists don't speak about soul, but they speak about the Buddha nature.
What is the difference?
And it is pretty much the same. It is the Christ within everyone. See, everyone has the Buddha nature. And the aim of Zen training is to realize one's own Buddha nature. The aim of metapsychiatric studies is to realize oneself as a living soul which was never born and which never dies, which is hid with Christ in God, and which is the source of everything real and good and beautiful. All the spiritual qualities and ideas flow from God into this individual living soul, which we all are. Now, when we say that everything and everyone is here for God, we mean that we are all living souls at different levels of realization. When the Buddhists speak of the unborn, in Buddhism they speak of the unborn. That's the same thing as saying the living soul which was never born and never dies, which is the individual ultimate entity of everyone. So that's what a living soul is. We are all living souls. It is also reminds us of the Buddhist koan which says, what was your face? Show me your face, which you had even before your parents were born. You see, there in this koan, you go beyond the fantasies of which your parents had about you. We spoke often that we are living out the fantasies of our parents, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the koan says you have to realize your true identity, which is completely antecedent to any parental fantasies. So, in order to really be aware of one's true identity, one has to be free from all parental fantasies and educational influences. And working with this koan, one can reach a point of total freedom from anybody's way of thinking about us. You remember Buddha said that we are what we think, having become what others have thought. Now, if you realize your self-identity is a living soul, then you have escaped the influences of your parents and your teachers, your educators' thoughts, or friends' thoughts about yourself. And your authenticity is complete. Because then you are really aware of yourself as God has created you. This is a process of liberation. And there is, of course, understandably, a great sense of freedom in it. Freedom to be what God wants us to be.
You also clarified the text hidden with Christ in God.
Yeah.
But it's hidden, isn't it?
Right, it's hidden from ourselves and from the world because nobody suspects it. And nobody really can understand it until he has realized it. So it is a mysterious kind of sense of identity which is beyond comprehension of unenlightened man, but it is an objective fervently to be pursued by everyone.
Is it like hidden would be the same as invisible with Christ?
Yes, right.
Invisible with the Christ in God.
Yes, it's invisible through the senses. You cannot apprehend it through the senses, but you can behold it through the faculty of spiritual beholding. You become a beholder and you can behold your own true identity, which is devoid of all human influences. Complete authenticity of being. Now I would like to hear what Jeannie had to say about the living soul.
Hello, Dr. Hora.
Hello, Jeannie.
He's kind of spoken. The only way I can relate to what you have said is by trying to share.
Because
I have many times spoken about my financial problems and my difficulty with getting employment.
yes,
At the end of the research practicum where the paper was developed, I made the realization that I had put a ceiling on myself and had discovered that I was now working for approximately 3 times the salary I had at the first of the year, but I was only working 1/3 of the time, so I still had just as much money.
yes,
I was sharing with some of the members of the group here this morning that in realizing that theory and beginning to observe what it means to be a living whole, somehow that's been broken through, and I am now in the position of being frightened to death for such a wonderful opportunity that I have had.
How is that?
Oh, well, in my old format from the fantasy from my parents, anything that I got that was good, I was not entitled to, so therefore I could not keep it.
Mhm.
With naughty, I was bad.
Uh-huh.
I was good, I was even worse.
Yes.
In the study of the living soul, I've become a little bit free of that, and in seeing that the living soul is really the context of my life, I cannot help but share in the abundance that's all around me.
Yes. Right.
Enjoying it tremendously, but I have to say that there are times when it is extremely frightening because I'm not accustomed to it.
Mm-hmm.
But the living soul has been there to comfort me at each and every step.
Yes.
There's a visual image that had come that went with it too. When I first started, the world seemed very much the center of my life, and I tried very hard to see the flow of God's goodness through that.
Yes.
The image that I'm seeing now is one of it's non-dimensional of intelligence. It's flowing, and the material light is the part that falls off of it.
Yes. I would recommend that you don't try to see images.
I know, you tell me that so often.
Would you clarify what is the problem with translating it in an image?
Well, if you're eager to form images in your consciousness, that means that you are descending into the dimensional world, and you don't really understand yourself as a living soul. You just imagine things. And whatever you can imagine will be just imaginary. And you will not be aware of reality, but only your own fantasies. It is exactly to escape the influence of fantasies that we have to realize non-dimensional reality. Only the living soul is pure wisdom and love and individualized spiritual life. And it cannot be visualized, and you cannot draw a picture of it. And if you try, you lose it.
It seems that when a new understanding comes, they're put a very short period of time for their depth the understanding.
Yes.
Very soon after that, there follows some sort of a verbal sentence that descriptive feeling in language form, and then I get a picture after that. But I'm getting an information from you that it is possible to maintain that first initial understanding with no thought. Is that correct?
No. Yes. You cannot think it, and you have to be aware of it. You have to be aware of yourself as a non-dimensional unit of awareness. You see, a God is infinite mind. Infinity has no dimensions. You cannot measure infinity. Infinity is non-dimensional. And everything in the context of infinite mind is also non-dimensional. But the human mind cannot conceive of anything non-dimensional. But the human mind is just an illusion anyway. And God is the mind which makes it possible for us to be aware of reality. Whatever you can imagine cannot be real. You can just kid yourself that you are in touch with reality if you try to visualize this reality.
Dr. Hora, this is Alexandra.
Yes, Alexandra.
Jenny made the statement this morning that we study God and observe man as a manifestation,
Yes.
and that we determine that the living soul is
Yeah.
what studies God. So I would like to know what observes man as a manifestation.
Well, only you see the whole issue of man. When you speak of man, you speak of the phenomenal world. And this world, everything is an illusion. Even the seeing of man in a dimensional form is illusion. So when you ask the question about what sees man, the so-called carnal mind sees dimensional reality. Now, dimensional reality could be thought of as a dream or a shadow of real reality, which is non-dimensional. In order to be liberated from the problems of dimensional, phenomenal world, we have to reach a realization of non-dimensional reality, which is unimaginable and unthinkable, but we can be aware of it. Now, sometimes I like to speak about these very mysterious issues the following way. In the Bible, it is described that God said, "Let us make a firmament, and let us divide the waters which are below the firmament from the waters which are above the firmament." You're all familiar with this passage, right? Now, the waters below the firmament are the sea of mental garbage in which unenlightened man lives and struggles, appears to be born, and gets sick and dies. All this is what seems to be going on below the firmament. Now, the firmament itself is the faculty of awareness. This faculty of awareness, which we also speak of as spiritual discernment, this spiritual discernment is a faculty which makes it possible for us to be aware of the difference between the phenomenal world and spiritual reality, the ocean of love intelligence which is above the firmament. The firmament is the dividing line which is nothing material, but it is just the faculty of awareness. You see, until this faculty is awakened within us, we don't know about life above about spiritual reality. All we know is the sea of mental garbage. When we start studying metapsychiatry, we discover that there are other dimensions to life. And then we discover the faculty of awareness. This faculty of awareness contains the faculty of spiritual discernment. Now, what is discernment? The word discernment means the capacity to separate reality from unreality. It's like separating the tares from the wheat. You're all familiar with this parable, yes? You see, when the farmers' workers discovered the tares in the field of wheat, they came to the farmer and says, "Master, what shall we do? The whole wheat is infested with this poisonous weed, and everything is lost." Now the farmer said, "Do nothing and wait until harvest time. When the wheat becomes ripe, then you will be able to discern the difference between the tares and the wheat." You see, at harvest time, when we reach harvest time, then the faculty of discernment emerges in consciousness, and we have the ability to separate reality from unreality. The spiritual and the material can be separated at that point. And that is the emergence of the firmament. I think most of you by now are able to be aware of the firmament, and you have the faculty of spiritual discernment. We have worked for several years now on reaching this point. Now, the firmament is clearly established in every student's consciousness, or most of us. Most of the people who study metapsychiatry have awakened to the faculty of spiritual discernment, and this is the firmament. Now, from here on, we are working and praying and meditating in the direction of rising higher to the point of beholding. Beyond the firmament is the faculty of beholding. This beholding is the capacity to be aware of pure spiritual reality. And at this point, we may discover that we are living souls, incorporeal, non-dimensional, spiritual identities, living in the context of infinite mind. And we are not dealing anymore with images, but with realizations of non-dimensional reality and our individual place in that reality. Are there any questions?
Oh, yes, Dr. Hora, this is still Alexandra.
Yes.
The firmament as the faculty of awareness, does that appear only when we're ready for awareness, or is it always there?
Well, it's always there, but we have to awaken. We have to somehow be awakened to its discovery. Millions of people have no idea that this really exists.
And we were talking about the harvest time with the wheat.
Yes.
What is the harvest time?
The harvest time is the emergence of this faculty of awareness. When you reach a certain point of maturity in your studies of metapsychiatry, you come to the point of harvest time. And interestingly enough, at that time, your life begins to improve in every direction. You are harvesting the blessings of expanded awareness, of spiritualization of consciousness.
And Dr. Hora, if we are not our childhood experiences, then we're living out the fantasies of our parents.
Yes.
And it seems as though fantasies could be some of the tares in the wheat.
Just the tares. Just, or
Just the tares.
or crippled wheat, yes.
Yeah. And if we have to be free of this, and then we're really not our childhood experiences, I would like to understand the meaning of healing the consciousness of the parent in order for a child to be healed of some difficulty or illness.
Well, nobody can heal the consciousness of the parents unless they are sincerely interested to take up the study of metapsychiatry or another spiritual discipline. It's certainly a great blessing whenever any member of a family or community enters the spiritual path with all sincerity and commitment. That's a great blessing for all people around that individual. Ye are the salt of the earth, says the Bible.
Good morning, Dr. Hora. This is Phyllis.
Hello, Phyllis.
It seems quite evident all the more to me as you were speaking this morning that we need to take great care to realize that the soul existence is our higher existence and not to fool ourselves to have the soul more or less working for the ego, as it were.
That's right, of course. That's right,
You know,
Phyllis.
that I believe I've spoken to some degree of the way that we see the evidences of our awareness of soul existence in what we might call the experiences of the world. Would you speak a little more about that?
I didn't catch your question. Could you reformulate it?
Right. I'm interested in perhaps understanding if I may be in experiences as some evidence that I am understanding more of the soul existence, or is that impossible?
Yes, well, the evidences of your growing understanding of yourself as a living soul become evident in healings, both in your body and in your so-called temperament and in your relationships to the world. things become more harmonious. You find yourself responding to the daily challenges of life in a more intelligent and effective way, so that there is less strain in your daily living and more effectiveness and more blessings. But the most striking aspect of being conscious of oneself as a living soul is that what all areas of life.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If we live in the world, could we say then that when we are aware of the dimension above the firmament,
Yeah.
that encompasses the world in which we live?
Well, it is like this, Jan. You know, the world is the shadow of reality, a shadow of true substance, and when in proportion as we are aware of the perfection of life in the non-dimensional realm, then these shadow images which torment us disappear, because there is nothing to feed them.
But nevertheless, we function in the world. We drive the freeways of California and deal with people in various areas.
Yes.
It is encompassed by the dimension above the firmament.
Well, a living soul is unhampered by the inanities, the fantasies, and the wants and not wants of the world. Therefore, love intelligence can freely express itself in his life. So things are less complicated, and there is no stress anymore in his life. He deals with whatever is needed very intelligently, effortlessly, efficiently, and effectively. There are fewer and fewer problems.
Dr. Leonard Fern,
Yes, Fern.
it seems that when the spiritual discernment awakens within us
Yes,
at the harvest time,
yes,
they also become aware of the torment, the war between the spirit and the flesh, being drawn towards the world or towards soul existence.
yes.
So what the sorrow is not in torment, but what is the conflict that is going on there?
It is a conflict of interest. If there is conflict within us, that means we have not yet reached a total commitment of interest in the spiritual life. We are just straddling the firmament.
Yes.
That's where the flesh wars against the spirit.
What is it that allows us to move off the fence to that commitment?
Yeah, a little more suffering.
That's what I thought. Yeah, it says another camp. We have to go to another
Another camp.
another camp. We just finished doing the children's camp out here.
Oh, yes. Was it good?
Yes,
That's nice.
yes.
Very good.
The statement in the Bible, the scripture that says the battle is not ours,
Yes,
but God.
yes.
How can that help us when this warring is going on in the interest? Is that related to this kind of conflict?
Well, of course, you know that God helps those who let Him. But if we are not fully interested in the spiritual life, then we are not letting God help us.
I had a question that's not clear. What is the meaning of self-deception?
Self-deception is something that is a phenomenon of lying to oneself in order to pursue certain cherished values like self-aggrandizement or sensory pleasures or ambitions. So we deceive ourselves because we cherish certain aims in life and expect to find happiness there. And we wouldn't admit it to ourselves that we are barking up on the wrong tree. So there's a great deal of self-deception in the world, even in the fields of studies of spiritual truth. There are people who believe that they are truth seekers, but they are not really. They are just deceiving themselves because they want something. They misunderstand it in terms of personal power. If I become enlightened, I will have sex which will be terrific, or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So then those are self-deception. There's a lot of it in the world, and we have to guard ourselves against it because it doesn't get us anywhere.
What is the soul function or participation when we are in the conflict of interest
What is the participation?
of the soul?
The soul?
Does it help us in any way to shift our interest to spiritual commitment?
Well, certainly that's the only solution. But the soul doesn't enter, it never enters into the issues below the firmament. You see, the firmament being the dividing line between the sea of mental garbage and the ocean of love intelligence, the firmament is aware of both so-called worlds. The firmament is aware. And the firmament knows whether we live under the firmament or whether we sincerely seek to rise above the firmament.
Thank you, Dr. Hora.
You're welcome.
Dr. Hora, this is Burl. I have not previously had the pleasure of being on
Could you repeat your name, please?
Burl. And I'd like to know what, in metapsychiatry, what is the difference between the meaning of the soul and the spirit?
Well, the soul is spiritual identity, Burl. It's just semantics.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Hora,
Yes.
this is Alexandra.
Yes, Alexander.
Is the firmament a function of the soul?
The firmament is the function of the spirit.
But would it be awareness that is an object of God?
Yes, it is, sure.
Thank you. Hi, Dr. Hora. This is John.
Yes, John.
In talking about the conflict of interest
Yes,
between material and ego things and spiritual values,
yes.
then we could say that any time we have any kind of conflict in our existence at all, it's just we can know right away that we're just not interested in spiritual things.
Or not sufficiently interested. Or we would like to straddle the situation. Or as the saying goes, have our cake and eat it too.
So that the ending of whatever it is will just be increased commitment.
Yes. Radical sincerity and commitment to being here for God as a living soul.
The radical sincerity is in confronting or facing the fact that we are interested in whatever it is, material.
Or that we are not. Yes, right. That's right. That's right.
No matter what
Most of
ourselves we really aren't, so there wouldn't be the conflict at all.
right. Most of the struggle is turning away from ego gratification.
Yeah, thank you.
Ego gratification is what drives the unenlightened world. Everything that is accomplished by an unenlightened man is accomplished in quest of ego gratification.
Hello, Dr. Hora, this is Tammy.
Yes, Tammy.
I have a question about intellectualism. I was wondering, can the soul help it to be healed of intellectualism?
Definitely, sure.
What is it we need to know?
Well, a living soul derives all wisdom and understanding and creative ideas from the divine mind, whereas intellectualism is based on the illusion of a personal mind.
We can be deceiving ourselves, though, can't we, in thinking that this intellectualism is coming from the soul?
Definitely, that our capacities for self-deception seem to be endless.
Can you give me some ideas about signs that show whether we're deceiving ourselves or we're dealing with the truth?
Well, you know, when you are in proper alignment with the truth of being, when your intelligence comes from the divine mind, there is PAGL. Have you ever heard of PAGL?
Oh, yes. Peace and the assurance
Right.
and the love.
Yeah.
But there's calm.
Calm? Ah, you could say that, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Hora.
You're welcome, Tammy.
Dr. Hora,
Yes.
what is the meaning in our endeavor to behold another as a living soul?
What is the meaning?
Well, I didn't finish the question. When we are endeavoring to behold another as a living soul,
Yes.
what is the meaning of difficulty in seeing through a particular appearance? a particular mode of being or behavior that we can't see the living soul at that time, that it catches us in the world here.
Well, no, very important is the motivation. Only true love can do the beholding. If our motivation is something else, then it will be just self-deception. Love and compassion can behold the living soul. Everything else is just humbug.
What other motivation would there be? You mean like thinking we should be saved?
Or thinking that we have power, we have personal spiritual power over other people. And all sorts of possibilities of false motivations can arise.
The right motivation is love and compassion.
Yes, that's right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Hora, this is Elizabeth.
Yes, Elizabeth.
I had a question. You mentioned authenticity earlier.
Yes.
And could you say more about that? What is authenticity?
Authenticity means genuineness. When we are living in fantasies or when we are subject to other people's fantasies about us, we are inauthentic. We can be consciously inauthentic, that is called phony, or we can be unconsciously inauthentic, that means being under the influence of other people's thoughts and fantasies and suggestive attitudes, and we are inauthentic.
And what would be needed to yield that?
There's another word, it's called disingenuous. Have you ever heard that word?
No, I haven't.
Disingenuous.
What would be needed to yield that if it was an unconscious?
Well, it has to become conscious first, and then it has to be rejected, that say, this is not me.
And you said that God helped those that let him.
Yes.
So in looking to God for help, that's how God helps us?
Well, God helps us the moment we get out of the way.
How do we get out of the way?
By understanding that we're in the way as long as we want and don't want something.
So that would be the 3 R's, yeah. That be right?
No, the answer to this dualism is a sincere interest in what God wants.
A shifting of attention.
Yes, correct, Elizabeth.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Red, this is Joan again.
Yes.
Back to what Fern was talking about for a moment, the motivation in seeing others as living cells is to manifest God in love and compassion.
The motivation to what?
Fern was asking about seeing others as living souls.
Yes.
And you said that would only be successful if it was a manifestation of love and compassion or an interest in manifesting God.
Yeah, and motivation. Yeah,
kind of motivation.
right.
When I said you passed to me, I have been ruling and seeing specific others that way. I think I've been trying to heal anger that way.
Whose anger?
Mine.
Your own anger.
Yeah.
I see.
That won't work.
Well, that sounds manipulative. You heal your anger by understanding its meaning.
Yeah. Understand, seeing the thought that is the anger.
Yes, right.
Okay, thank you.
Anger is always the fruit of wanting or not wanting.
Hello, this is Sheila.
Yes, Sheila.
I'm still back here with the fantasy. We need to be healed. Do I understand correctly? We need to be healed of the fantasies that our parents and others had for us.
Yes, right.
What is needed to become aware of what those fantasies were or are?
Well, it requires a certain amount of growth in spiritual understanding. You would need the help of a guide or someone who can help you discover the meaning of your experiences and your hang-ups, and you will discover that those are fantasies of your parents or significant individuals in your life. And that way you can be liberated from the influence which they exert on you day by day. There is Elizabeth, who has become a nurse because her mother fantasized that she should be a nurse. Right, Elizabeth?
Thank you. Sounds good. Is the rebellious child at some level aware of these fantasies of the parents and rebelling against that? It, in some sense, knowing its true nature?
Well, children don't understand. They are not conscious. They don't know that they are rebellious, and they don't know why they are rebellious, and they don't know what the meaning. They are just unhappy, and they're lashing out blindly against things which they don't like. So we cannot say that the child is aware of any of the parental fantasies.
Doctor, when a lady approached me the other day, and she had had her 12-year-old daughter to many specialists over the years since she was 3 years old, because this child has no hair on her head, and she's a lovely girl. But the mother wanted to know if I could speak with or counsel this child, and I realized that it is the mother that would probably everyone would benefit from the mother having some understanding.
That's right.
Then I asked the mother what happened at the age when the child was 3, and there was a very traumatic experience. And there are other things involved also, the absence of the father who travels a lot, and when he is home, being on the golf course instead of with the family. So I can see that there are a lot of troubles in the family that the child is really innocent of, affected by. And I guess my question is, and I'm sort of understanding the answer to be no, but there would be no benefit in speaking to this child.
Not likely, no.
Since the mother has approached me about it, would it would it be worthwhile to attempt to talk to her about conflict?
Yeah, what we usually we encounter severe resistance on the part of parents to assume any kind of responsibility for the children's condition or for the possibility of their healing. This is very difficult. It would have to be a very exceptional individual who would be willing to face the fact that children are extensions of parental consciousness. This is a most objectionable statement to many parents who come across metapsychiatry. Because they feel guilty. But actually, the issue is not guilt, but deeper understanding of life.
Or I am going to see this woman again in a few days, and it's sort of a situation where she's waiting for an answer as to whether or not I will speak with the child.
Well, you
At
can.
that time, would it be invasion on my part if I tried to explain a little bit about how he should fit on in conflict?
Yes, well, you can try it tactfully, but I doubt whether she will accept it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Hora.
You're welcome.
Dr. Hora, this is Jenny.
Yes, Ginny?
The idea that you presented about straddling impermanence.
Yes.
I can think of several instances where I have been interested in discovering more of the living soul quality, where this comment very much addresses the kind of warringness that I have felt there. What would be the most effective way to take a practical application of that? I like when I'm working. I try to always be consciously aware when I find something that's disruptive or disharmonious in my life. I try to become consciously aware of what God wants.
That's a good idea. Yes. You work a little with more sincerity on the issue of committing yourself wholeheartedly to being here for God, and study and meditate on the desirability of rising above the firmament to the point of realization of the living soul, so that you may stay there permanently.
This is David, Dr. Hora.
David, yes.
Is the sea of mental garbage equivalent to the carnal mind?
Yes, right.
Would it be correct to say that everything that we sense humanly or materially is nothing more than a projection of that mind?
That's correct.
So that even our idea of ourselves is a projection of that.
Yes, and our idea of ourselves is not even our idea. It's somebody else's idea. Only God's thoughts constitute our true being, David.
Not how how does that mind differ from the divine mind, and where does that mind exist, if it exists? Is it in a consciousness?
Well, it is a false impression. It's a misperception. That's all we can say. It has no origin. It has no reality. It is Maya, samsara, illusion, dream, and belief. That's all that can be said about it.
And that includes everything that we see.
That's right.
Would it be a good idea to then just it seems like there's no way of avoiding it, that you might just simply observe it without a judgment?
That's a good idea, yes. You cannot avoid it. You just have to become acquainted with its true nature so that you can be aware of it and transcend it.
There at some time you become aware of the true mind.
That's correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
This is a good point to end our discussion.
Okay, Jan.
Thank you very much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.